Alright, this video is going to be the beginning of a new project. This will be part one of several parts. To get started, I'm on the home screen here, and we're going to click the arrow to the right of the Create New button. This allows us to select different units of measurement. We're going to be using feet and inches, so that is the architectural setting. So go ahead and click that to get started with our project. Once we're in our work area, you can see there's a human-sized object in here. I'm just going to leave that there for now as a reference point as we go over some navigation shortcuts. So in your workspace, if you're using a Chromebook, you can use two fingers on the trackpad to orbit. So this allows you to navigate three-dimensionally through space, to look underneath and above, in front of, behind, side by side, and that's very useful. The second shortcut is if you hold the Shift key down while you use two fingers. This is called panning. This allows you to move an object to be placed in your workspace where you can see it. So this adjusts it left, right, up, or down, just moving along the two-dimensional plane that you see in front of you. And then the last thing would be if you hold the Control key down and use two fingers, you can quickly zoom in and out on your work area. You can also use the traditional, pinch your fingers together to zoom out and spread them apart to zoom in, but it is a slower zoom process. So if you want to go a little bit faster, you can hold down Control and use two fingers and zoom in and out much quicker. Alright, now that we know how to navigate our work area, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is create a rectangle. So I'm going to grab the rectangle tool, and before I do that, your work area may look a little bit different due to your screen size. I have a fairly large screen size, so I'm going to try to zoom in so I can make it look maybe a little bit more like yours. So here we go. Alright, let's just say that this is your screen size. So Sketchup is changing, and they've changed their apps and the way they function. So the defaults are loaded in, and most of them are the most commonly used tools. The select tool on the top, and you have erase, your line tool, rectangle tool, circle tool, and then a bunch of other tools. And towards the bottom you have this three-dot menu, which is very important. This is where you will find any hidden tools. So if it's not available here, then it will be found in this area. And you can just click it to use it once, or if you would like to, you can grab a tool. Let's just say we want to use the zoom tool for some reason, and if there's room, you can add it to your toolbar. So now it's not allowing me to add it here, so I must be out of room, but you can arrange and remove and add tools as you need to, and then your most recently used tool will be found at the bottom. So even if you don't add it, it will always have your most recently used tool towards the bottom of that tool list. And to navigate up and down to see additional tools, you have these arrows here to get back to the top, and then you can go all the way back down to the bottom. So for now, I do have the rectangle tool right here in my tool bar. So I'm going to grab that, and I like to use the point of origin as a reference point to get started. Now most all of the tools in SketchUp are a click and release tool. That means you do not hold down the click button, you just simply click and release. So the first thing you need to do is determine where you want to start your rectangle. I would like to start it here at the point of origin. I'm going to click and release, and then drag diagonally away from that beginning point. Again, I am not holding the click button down, I'm just simply dragging my finger on the trackpad and moving diagonally away from the click point that I started. And now at the bottom you can see as I move, it changes the dimension. You can see it increase. One of the other things I want to mention while we're doing this is SketchUp is trying to guess which plane you want to draw your rectangle on. So some people have had difficulty staying on the ground. So here, if it's outlined in blue, it means it's going to be drawing the rectangle perpendicular to the blue axis, which would mean on the ground there. If it's green, that means it's trying to draw it perpendicular to the green axis, which would be drawing like on the front plane. And if you orbit around like this, you can even get it to try to create the rectangle on the red plane. So I want to make sure that I'm drawing on the ground level, which would be like the top. So you might need to orbit so the ground is more, you're viewing it from the top. That will make sure that Sketchup is assuming the correct drawing plane, and that would be from the top. So once you have an adjustable rectangle like this, we're simply going to start typing. You do not need to click down here to put the number in. You simply drag in the direction that you want to make your rectangle and start typing the dimensions. Since we're using feet and inches, we're going to be using some special symbols to indicate what is a foot and what is an inch. So our first rectangle is going to be like the outline of our structure. So it's going to be fairly large. It's going to be 30. So you type 30, and then you need to find an apostrophe, which is like a quotation mark, but just one little mark there. So find that on your keyboard. It's an apostrophe, and then you need a comma, and that is the height, and now we're going to put the width. So we're going to type 20 as our other dimension, and then make sure you add the apostrophe for feet, and then press enter to create your rectangle. So now you can see this is a fairly large building in relation to the size of our human that is here in the middle. So now that we have a reference for the size, I'm going to go ahead and select this person with using the select tool, and then press backspace to delete. Now if that doesn't work with your backspace, you can select the item and then use 2 fingers to click on it. Not click, but just 2-finger tap. That's like a right click. And then you can choose erase. Alright, now that we have our rectangle, we're going to now make it a 3-dimensional object. So to do that, we use the tool, that's the push-pull tool. So find that in your toolbar, and then click anywhere inside the area of our rectangle. So click to start. So again, it's click and release. You do not need to hold in the click button. And then once you've released, you can make it adjustable like this, just by moving your finger around on the trackpad. Now that it's adjustable, we're going to type in the dimension that we want for the height. Now this is just one number. It is a 10. So we're going to make this 10 feet tall. So 10 apostrophe enter. Alright, looking pretty good. So this is the basic outline of our building. It is just the basic cube form for our structure. Now we're going to make it look a little bit more interesting by adding some trim. In order to do this, I want to orbit so I can see underneath my building. So once I'm viewing from the bottom, I'm going to switch over to what's called the offset tool. It looks like this. So you can see in this little symbol, it has a smaller circle, and then an arrow, and then a larger circle that is being offset. So this tool can offset any enclosed shape. So if you don't have it in your tool set, again, you can click on the 3 dots and find it in these tools. It's right here in the 3rd row, the offset tool. And to begin with, you need to choose a region to offset. So just need to click anywhere inside, and note there's a little tiny dot that follows along the edge, and that's important for the next part of this tool. But for now, just click inside, anywhere inside the bottom rectangle, and then move towards wherever that little spot is that it created on the outline of the shape. So I'm moving towards it, and as I move towards it, it goes towards the outside. I can move actually past that and offset it outside the original rectangle. So those are my two options. I can either offset inside or offset outside. I want to offset outside, so I'm simply going to move outside the original rectangle, and then I'm going to type in the dimension that I want to offset. This is going to be a very small offset. It's going to be 3 inches. So now I need to use a different symbol. So I'm going to type in number 3, and then I need to find the quotation mark on the keyboard, which is above the apostrophe, which means I need to hold the Shift key down and then type that same key to get a quotation mark. That is the symbol for inches. Once I have 3 and then a quotation mark, I'm going to press Enter. I've created now a 3-inch offset. It's very small. We're going to use this to make our building look a little more interesting. Now I'm going to use the push-pull tool and try to pull this trim up. So in order to do that, I need to be able to select it. So I'm just going to zoom in temporarily. Again, holding the Control key down and 2 fingers on the keyboard, I can zoom in pretty quickly. Now I'm going to grab the push-pull tool, which is up on my tool list here, and then select anywhere on that offset, so within that 3-inch area there. And for this tool, you can see on my screen the end of the pointer is actually what selects what you want to push-pull. So at the very tip of that arrow, you're going to click inside the trim, or what will be the trim, the offset there, and then just click one time and release, and then move it up. Make sure it's adjustable. And now we're going to type in 2 feet. So this is going to be a 2-foot tall trim. So I'm going to go 2 apostrophe and then Enter. Now I like to use the Zoom Extents tool if I ever need to zoom out and see my entire project. That is this special tool here. It has a magnifying glass and a bunch of arrows pointing out. If you don't have it, I would suggest putting it on your tool list so it's easy to get to. I'm going to click this and see what happens. It automatically zooms anything that I have created out in full screen so I can see everything. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the top that I just did on the bottom. So I'm going to click on the offset tool, click anywhere inside, and you can see there's that little thing that follows along the edge somewhere, so it doesn't really matter where that is. Click inside the top and then drag towards that little mark that's somewhere along the edge. Just drag towards it. So you can see if I'm inside, that would be offsetting inside the rectangle. Again, I want to go outside the rectangle and the same measurement. So 3 and then a quotation mark for 3 inches and then press Enter. I'm going to make the top of this look interesting by push-pulling this trim. I'm going to grab the push-pull tool. I'm going to push-pull this offset upward. So make sure you're going up and not down. So up, and the same as before, 2 feet. So 2 apostrophe Enter. Then we're going to do one last step in part 1, and we're going to switch to the line tool. So with the line tool selected, I'm going to follow along the front edge of my trim, and I'm looking for the midpoint. So it should be towards the middle part of my model. So there it is, the midpoint. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see what I would like you to do is simply create a line from the front to the back. So I'm going to click the front part of my trim right on the midpoint and then move just ever so slightly to the back. I'm zooming in just a little bit so you can see. Straight across to the other midpoint and clicking to make a line. And for part 1 we are done. So I'm just going to zoom extent so you can see what your model should look like. Your model should look like mine. and then we will pause here and come back for part two.